This podcast is a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to find out more.
Show your move. Good news, everyone. Don't you little diggy when you see onions?
Welcome to 20th Century Boy. My name is Realio Sick, and this is the Inside My Mind. G'day, guys. Welcome to 20th Century Boy, a podcast by me, Radio Mike, a young writer and producer here in Melbourne, Australia, trying to make his way through life. Sometimes it's easier than other times. At the moment, I'm really sick. No idea what it is. Obvious answer is COVID, but guys, I gotta tell you, I've done a lot of rat tests. They're all coming up negative. So we move on. I almost didn't do this pod, but then I just thought I'm just gonna do it. I am really sick. It might be a bit of a quieter podcast, and it might also be a shorter podcast. I hope that's okay, guys. Yeah, I really hope that's okay, because I'm feeling like shit. I actually feel really, really shit at the moment. Like, all COVID symptoms, but all negative rats. And I'm like, I mean, I guess I don't have it, but yeah, and I'm really drowsy, I'm really fluey, and it's pretty gross overall. So, look, I'm jumping on and doing the podcast that I wrote for today. Last week's pod was obviously very different with Mikey D coming on, because we are water slide ambassadors. I hope you guys enjoyed that little different episode. We're water slide ambassadors. We're going to Adventure Park Geelong this Saturday. It's going to be awesome. Ruben Solo's coming. Ferg Neal's coming. Wow, what a celebrity star-studded trip to Adventure Park Geelong. And I hope people enjoyed that ep. It was very different. And yeah, it sucks because Mikey D's doing heaps of great content. Go and follow him over on his Instagram. And I've just been so dead and sick that I've barely been able to participate in a lot of it. So I hope I'm feeling better for Saturday, but we will slide, rain, hail, or shine. Of course, I would like to do a quick plug for my Patreon, patreon.com/radiomike. For as little as $1 a month, you get access to the Overflow podcast, where I overshare and talk about stuff I would never talk on this podcast, and it goes up at the exact same time as this podcast. So as soon as you finish listening to the pod, you can go listen to the Overflow. Episode 1 of the Overflow. What did I talk about on episode 1? Oh, I talked about behind the scenes of Hamish and Andy's Remembering Project. Episode 2, I told the story of how I sharted on a date alongside a exclusive behind-the-scenes grab from Hamish and Andy's Remembering Project that you will never hear anywhere else. It will never be public. Episode 3, Mikey D joined me for the Overflow, which was fun as well, and we talked about the social expectation of asking someone out who works at a cafe. Are they just being nice, or can you ask them out if you feel a connection? And yeah, go and listen to the Overflow. This week on the Overflow, I'll give a little bit more just of a info about what I've been doing and my sickness and a couple other things. So jump on the Overflow. That's like an extra 15-20 minutes at the end of the pod to get oversharing of a lot more stuff. But guys, first off, I want to do a welcome to the radio family, Vince Salvato. Welcome to the RF. He said, "Hey Mike, happy 25th birthday." Of course, we all know this, long-term listeners, but new-term listeners, if you haven't caught up and if you've started at season 4, or I recommend starting the podcast at season 3, great place to start the podcast. Season 1, I cringe at, but people seem to really like. Season 2, I honestly can't remember anything that happened. And then season 3, I think, was when we really started getting good. On the 12th of December 2019, my 25th birthday, I told everyone in that episode, whenever you're listening to this, wish me a happy 25th birthday. And people still do. And the idea was I would be 25 forever. And here I am, nearly halfway through being 27, but I'm still getting happy 25th birthday wishes. Love this. Vince goes on, "Only started listening to your podcast this year and started at the beginning. Finished season 1 today. I'm really into it. You said something about messaging when you hear the episode about you turning 25, so I sent it through. Hopefully catch up soon. Love your work. Thank you so much." Long-term listener Radio Lazar Welcome to the RF. I did a podcast a few weeks ago where I talked about the saddest moments in the history of the TV series Futurama. When I was talking about how Futurama was revived in radio, Lazar said, catching up on the podcast and just hearing the Futurama segment with the grabs made me nearly tear up. Yeah, it's very teary. It is always very teary. Of course, I talked about how voice actor John DiMaggio, who is the iconic voice of Bender the robot, whose full name I believe is Bender Bending Rodriguez, which is a very funny joke. He is returning. He wasn't returning as voice actor for Bender due to negotiation issues, but that has since been resolved and he will be returning, which I think is a really good result for all fans and otherwise. Aside from that, I've seen a few things that I want to talk about. I did get an interesting message over the weekend from Grilled. Yes, we are going here again. Interesting message that just, because I haven't spoken to them for a while, but got this message from Grilled. And if you're new to the show again, long relationship I've had with Grilled. Long relationship. And they texted me last Thursday via Instagram. I am the unofficial ambassador for Grilled, of course, so I do a lot of free promo stuff for them. Or not free, sometimes they pay me, sometimes they don't. Grilled sent me a message on Thursday at 8:08 p.m. saying, one word, Tuesday, and then the two eyes looking emoji. And I'm like, what does that mean? And from there, nothing happened on Tuesday. Yesterday was Tuesday, I'm recording this on Wednesday. Nothing happened. So I'm just going to message them now. What was the thing that was supposed to happen on Tuesday? Talking about it on my podcast right now and not sure what happened there, guys? ? So hopefully Grilled follows up with that very, very soon. Hey, as well as that, I'm thinking the podcast is going to have to move to Thursdays from now on. I know it's funny because we started with the podcast on Thursday all those years ago. Then it moved to Tuesdays for a bit. Now it's Wednesdays. I think we're going back to Thursday. We're doing the full circle, guys. And that's just a scheduling thing for me. Because often my work schedule changes a bit. Sometimes I end up in patterns where I just don't have time to record the podcast for the day. So Wednesday is now a good day for me to record the pod, whereas Monday and Tuesday aren't. So yeah, I'm going to have to record Wednesdays and then go and release on Thursday. So that's fine. That's a thing that's happening. So, looking ahead, it might be Thursday releases for the show, and I hope that's cool with all of you. Harry Potter and the Boys, I think, will move to Tuesday. So it might be just a little bit of readjusting, and I hope that's okay with people. Hey, I wanted to talk about the main thing for this episode that I wanted to talk about. And of course, and one thing I'll say is there is a clips channel for this show on YouTube, Radio Mike Podcast Clips. If you look that up on YouTube, you will find it. There is also the Instagram page for this podcast, which is TCB Pod on Instagram. Lots of exclusive stuff going up there and clips on YouTube if you just want bite-sized bits of the show as opposed to the full show. If you can't listen to the full show, get some of the clips. Like here's an example of some of the clips that I've posted recently. What do we got? Carrot Man, Origin. Oh no, these are scheduled. Lion is one of the best movies ever made. Blake Pavey, a grab from Mike Talks about why cancel culture isn't really real. The best Blink-182 songs. Elvis Presley movie is coming. Like lots of clips, and I'd love for you guys honestly to check them out if you can. So go subscribe to that and the main YouTube channel. The Batman. Brand new Batman movie. Robert Pattinson, of course, from Twilight plays the titular character, Batman, aka Bruce Wayne. Interesting film. Getting a lot of really positive reviews as well. People are loving this movie. And here's my history with Batman. Like a lot of people, I mean, I've seen The Dark Knight, great film with Joker, fantastic movie. And I have also seen, I think it's the 1989, possibly 79. No, 89 makes sense, I think. 1989 Batman, directed by Tim Burton. And I think Michael Keaton is Batman in that. I haven't seen Batman Begins or Dark Knight Rises. I think those are the only two Batman movies I've seen. I have seen the Justice League, and I've seen like half of Batman versus Superman, but generally don't find Batman too interesting as a character. I actually loved Joker. I thought Joker was a great origin story for that character, but yeah, I went to see The Batman, which is the title of the newest Batman film that exists in its own continuity and apparently will create a new Batman universe of movies, which is interesting. Here's my thoughts on The Batman, which people, man oh man, are probably not gonna like. Here's a lot of people on TikTok comment that I have really shit takes. Here's a shit take. The new Batman movie isn't that good. You just think it is because this is what you think Batman movies should be. Just putting it out there, guys. Like, The Dark Knight is a really great movie. Heath Ledger's Joker is the best on-screen performance of the Joker. Amazing villain, incredible film. And the Batman is all like, Batman generally is dark, gritty, scary, and that's the whole point of it. It's like this corrupt society, this corrupt city. And I think this new Batman captures that quite well. I think it does capture it pretty well. And Robert Pattinson's great, but few things. Number one, 179-minute runtime, which to me is just arrogance. It is arrogant to make a 3-hour movie and think that people want to sit through a 3-hour movie. Like, 2 hours for me often is the max. I don't want to sit there for 3 hours and watch a movie, especially like a really slow, droney movie like the new Batman. 2 hours. I don't know why a movie has to go for 3 hours. 3. That is so long. I was just sitting there being like, when is this over? One of the best parts about it is there's this musical motif that comes in, and it's like the new Batman theme, and it's like a really menacing, scary theme that's kind of like the Imperial March from Star Wars. Like, it's kind of like the Darth Vader theme. Dun, 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 dun. Every time Darth Vader comes on screen, that song plays, right? And Batman has a theme in this, and it's like, it's not like a heroic theme. It's like a dark, scary, foreboding theme. It's like, dun. No, it's not that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like, well, maybe I'll just play it off YouTube right now. Whatever it is, the Batman theme, because it's like it comes up so much in the movie, like it's recurs throughout the movie. This is it. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so it just like that comes on every time Batman's on screen. It's like dun, 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 dun. It's a really good atmosphere creator. It really sets the scene of what this world is and what this character is, and it's really strong use of a repeated musical motif throughout the film, and I really enjoyed that. And look, I don't think it's a bad movie. I gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd. I just thought it was unnecessarily long. That's basically what I'm complaining about. And what I actually did like a lot, this isn't a spoiler, the main villain is the Riddler. And, you know, I think it's hard to make some of the really theatrical Batman villains good in live action. I mean, Joker is a great example of that being done well time and time again, because I think Heath Ledger's Joker was amazing. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker was amazing. Jared Leto played Joker in the Suicide Squad, the original Suicide Squad movie, and that was I didn't think that was a great Joker, but yeah, Riddler, pretty goofy character, like he gives riddles and stuff, and like I thought he was really well done. I thought he was really scary, like this psychopath kind of guy. What I thought was funny was every time the Riddler gave Batman a riddle, he immediately solves it. Like, within 1 second, he's like, oh, this is the answer. And he just knows the answer to the riddles. And it's like, there's no suspense of us trying to figure out what the riddle is. I don't know. Maybe that was just me. But no, generally it was cool. There's a great scene there where Batman uses the bat wings to fly, kind of hover down from a big building. And then he gets hit by a truck. It was really, it was interesting. And then I think, like, I'm still not sure. I think Gotham City, I mean, I guess Gotham City is like an analogy for New York City, like not literally, but it's supposed to be that this is like New York City. But yeah, I didn't love it. I wouldn't watch it again because it was so long, but it was fun. And I thought the adaptation of the Riddler was really good. I also had the movie spoiled for me while I was waiting to get my hair cut at a barber. Like, something happens towards the end that is a big spoiler if you know. And this guy at the barbershop was just saying it out loud to the guy cutting his hair, and I happened to overhear it, which was crap. But yeah, the Batman, 3 hours long, man. Come on, 2 hours. 2.5 maybe. I just think I think, and what I'm kind of worried about for DC, like, you look at, again, what Marvel has created with their shared cinematic universe. And, you know, that spans TV and movies now and a bunch of other stuff, right? They started in 2008. That's now 14 years ago with the first Iron Man movie. And then within 4 years of having Iron Man, the Hulk, Captain America, and Thor, they then did the Avengers. Took them 4 years to get to that. 4 or 5 years. And then they started introducing more. Ant-Man, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, like a bunch of other superheroes, periphery to it. Spider-Man came in, you know, and then they did the next Avengers, and then they did so they spent basically years building all these characters up, whereas I think I've spoken about this before, DC was just playing catch up when they saw what Marvel was doing and how successful it was. It's like, wow, we need to do that too. They started with Man of Steel, a Superman reboot, to create their shared universe. They had Wonder Woman, they had Aquaman, and they had those were the three they did, and then they did Justice League. No, then they did Batman versus Superman, where they introduced Ben Affleck's Batman, and that was a terrible film because they were just rushing it. No one cared about any of these characters yet because they hadn't had time to grow them all. And then they did Justice League. And the other thing about Batman is I think he works better outside of other superheroes because Batman isn't a superhero. He's a rich guy who builds gadgets. Whereas, like, Superman is literally an alien from outer space with literal superpowers. Wonder Woman is a goddess. Aquaman is a god. Or a demigod or whatever. He can control water. Batman is just a rich guy. And then in Justice League, and Flash is a super fast dude. He has superpowers. He can run so fast he travels back in time. And I think Batman, when he's there, like even in the Justice League movie and Snyder's cut, he just looks weak because he can't do what these other guys can do. So I think he works better in his own gritty universe. But that's the thing, like, the DC universe has basically been abandoned now. You know, Henry Cavill's Superman, I think, is done. They had Shazam, which was supposed to be part of that universe, but I think they've just gone, nah. They did a sequel to Wonder Woman 1984, but it's like, it's barely... They are doing Flashpoint, and it is the same Flash from Justice League, but it feels like they're all disconnected now. The fact that now Robert Pattinson is Batman and Ben Affleck's Batman is seemingly discontinued and this is a new Batman continuity just suggests they're folding. They're like, yep, we fucked that. We didn't do that properly and now we have nothing to show for it. Whereas Marvel, like, who carefully plotted everything, waited for timing. My thing now with Marvel is I'm fearing that they're going to be at risk of oversaturating the market and people are going to be like, nah, I'm done with Marvel movies. I think that's what's going to happen with all the TV shows and stuff, but I think there'll always be an audience there, and I think there'll always be an audience for Batman. Those characters are so valuable, and their branding is so valuable. Like, I don't think people really care about who's playing Batman as much as they do about seeing a Batman movie and seeing the character Batman. I think the other thing is, like, I think Superman is really hard to reboot because he's just such a I don't know, like an aged character. Like, there's so many more interesting superheroes than Superman, who is literally just the default superhero. And that's why I think Marvel did it so much better, because Iron Man, like Spider-Man was easily Marvel's biggest character. But they didn't start it with Spider-Man in the MCU. They started with Iron Man, who wasn't a huge character, but they made him huge. Then they did Hulk, and people knew Hulk. Like, Hulk had had a few movies. Iron Man had never had a movie, like a live-action movie adaptation. And I think, yeah, trusting your IP, whereas I think DC was just busting to get Batman and Superman together. They were trying to sell a promise rather than an execution. It's like, we're making Batman versus Superman the movie. Ben Affleck is Batman, Henry Cavill is Superman. How awesome's this? But the execution was off. But they knew people would see the movie. They knew people would be like, well, we have to see this movie. It's Batman versus Superman. But they didn't execute it right. Whereas Avengers, the first Avengers from Marvel, it was like, okay, people are going to see this no matter what, so it has to be good and it has to be timed right. We can't just do 2 movies then do Justice League. So it is a shame about what's happening with DC. I mean, hopefully, like I'm interested to see what this new Batman universe does. But yeah, generally speaking, I think DC really fucked up their cinematic universe vibe, and yeah, it's a huge shame for them. But yeah, The Batman, decent movie. I'd love to know your thoughts as well. Very quickly as well, I wanted to talk quickly about how on a previous episode I talked about how I don't like games anymore. I was definitely overreacting, but a lot of people had a lot of thoughts on this, which I'd like to read out. Long-time listener Patrio Ganonbort. Get Patrio in front of your name by being a patron. Patreon.com/RadioMike. Ganonbot said, games have almost always been clunky. One of your favorite games, Banjo-Kazooie, is clunky and heavy as hell. I said that I feel like games now are too clunky. There are games that characters are light and zoom around. Like you said with Assassin's Creed, at the time it was possible to have fast, light games, but players then wanted more realism and more of a challenge. I don't really get how you think Horizon wasn't heavy and clunky, Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm not sure how to help you enjoy games again when you've made contradictory claims, but it sounds like you want a quick game fix, or that very fast build of a game like Smash Bros. Switch is such a good console if you want to get back into other games though. You can literally just put it to sleep whenever you want and play every game in bite-sized pieces. Patrio Whitey, he instead said, you like games perfectly fine. This is a common issue for people aged in their 20s. You have a finite amount of energy per day, and more of it is being sucked up. Work, social engagements, stress, anxiety. In addition to this, most people in the years before that burn the candle at both ends, which drops your energy cap a bit until you can really reset. A game you didn't enjoy for reasons that may be valid is probably just the catalyst. Smash Bros. Lasts because it's a comfort food and low effort impact. As 21st century philosopher Mark Hoppus said, well, I guess this is growing up. Give it some more time and rejig some life stuff. Get more sleep and take a few days to yourself with your phone off. Maybe play an RPG from 2011 you loved from the start. You'll rekindle it. Yeah, I think that is it. I do like games. And I realize like I just can't play. I just don't have time to play big games now. I can't spend hours upon hours playing one video game and trying to 100% it. I think this is why I really like platformers, because I always know exactly how to play them. The learning curve is really low. Like, it's just like they all kind of function very similarly. And the other thing is, and I realized I bought this game called Celeste on PS5, which is this indie 2D platformer that uses an 8-bit kind of pixel art style, which is really nice, and it, you know, looks like a retro game, but it is really great, really sophisticated. And I think, and I loved it. I beat it. It is an incredible game. One of the best games I've ever played. And the reason I liked it was, I think what I'm getting at with the clunky controls thing, and like, is like when I picked up Celeste, again, the concept of the game is you're a girl trying to climb a mountain. And it's a platformer game, so you're jumping off stuff and dashing in the air, trying to grab onto stuff, and you have a finite amount of stamina. I think I read this thing once where it's like, I want to play a game where it's like the controls are the same throughout. Well, I'm going to get roasted again. Basically, like in Celeste, it felt like the controls were so precise because it's a platformer, and I could move however I moved. I knew that the character was going to move like that on the screen, and the buttons don't change to suit particular things. Like maybe if you're in a game, like the controls change depending on where you are, what you stand, like whatever you're doing in like a 3D action adventure game. Whereas Celeste was just like the whole point of this game is platforming and precision platforming and timing. And I was like, yep, great. It feels like this character is on a grid. I know exactly what the character can do, where it can go, and how to do this. And it's like that focus that kind of gets me in a flow state, like the focus of just of knowing exactly what the game is doing. So I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. It's also a great game. It's really artistic because the whole game and the whole climbing the mountain thing is actually story-wise an analogy for the main character, this girl, and her struggles with mental health, particularly with anxiety and depression. So she really struggles with anxiety and depression, and the metaphor of climbing the mountain, right? As you're climbing the mountain, this mirror version of yourself, Negative Colors, comes out and starts following you in some levels and trying to attack you. And then at the end of the level, you get a call from your mum who says, oh, you've had another panic attack. And it's like, yeah, that's a great analogy of what it feels like to have anxiety and have a panic attack. Like a part of you is like chasing you and trying to attack you and trying to catch you and you can't get away. And I just thought it was brilliant. And everyone in the game that you talk to is saying, you're not going to make it up the mountain. You might as well stop. You're not going to make it up the mountain. And that's an analogy for like your brain telling you can't do things when you want to do them. And this game was phenomenal in execution, story, controls, like everything about it I really, really liked. And then you unlock these really super hard levels that really test your skill with the game. And I'm still going with those and they're really fun as well. But yeah, all in all, like I think I just want games that I definitely want games that I don't have to think too much or invest too much thought. Like I want to be able to turn it on and just start playing and not think about much other stuff in the game. Like I don't want to have to think about side quests and things. I basically, at the moment in my life, I'm so busy that I just want a game where it's like the gameplay doesn't change that much. It might get harder, but the core gameplay sort of stays the same. And then you just like, it's like a start and an end of a level instead of like an open world where you can explore everywhere. That's where I'm at with games at the moment, I think. Did get a message in from Patrio or maybe Radio Cusbro. Welcome to the RF. He said, hey Mike, do you know they made a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn called Horizon Forbidden West? I said on that other podcast that Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the best games I've played in a long time. It's the game where you fight robot dinosaurs with a bow and arrow, and it's amazing. It just came out. It could renew your interest in games. Better graphics and similar gameplay to the first game. Heaps of fun. Really good storyline. Haven't finished it yet. PS5 is where it's at. Hope you enjoy and you're doing well. Then he goes, love hearing the podcast every week. Harry Potter and the Boys is hilarious every week. I laugh my head off at the 15 minutes of fluff at the start. The talk between the book that you have with Sammy or whoever is reading it, it wouldn't be the same without that in it. This week with Charlie was so funny. His take on Harry Potter and the fanfic was hilarious. Literally a laugh a minute, if not more. All the best with your endeavours. Thank you, mate. Yeah, Charlie Clausen was my guest on Harry Potter and the Boys this week. Go and listen to that as well. But yeah, I have heard of Horizon Forbidden West. I do want to pick it up, but again, I don't know if at the moment I have time for that. Maybe it's like an over the summer kind of thing where I just like take a few days off and play, because I could play a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. That game is so good. But yeah, hey guys, my voice is getting a bit sore, so I apologize. I might start wrapping this week up. Hopefully by next week I'm better and can do a proper episode. One more thing actually. Russia is legalizing piracy. I saw this headline during the week and I thought it was so interesting, right? Obviously all this stuff with Russia and Ukraine, this terrible scenario. And it turns out because so many brands are boycotting Russia in terms of entertainment, Russia is retaliating by legalizing piracy. So people are like, okay, well, we're just going to download and pirate all the content that's being banned. Here's a bit of an article from IGN. Russia is reportedly easing its copyright laws to offset sanctions imposed by Western nations in response to its invasion of Ukraine. In doing so, it is effectively legalizing piracy of games, movies, TV shows, and more. The Russian Ministry of Economic Development proposed relaxing piracy legislation earlier this week to circumvent sanctions. I find this so interesting because, it's just amazing that basically Russia's saying, all right, well, if they're not going to give us content, we'll just let people download it. And it is a retaliation because countries around the world are going, you can't have this if you're doing this. And Russia's going, okay, well, we'll just steal them from you. We'll just take what resources we can get. And, I call it Jack Sparrowing on this show. And, I think there are a lot of people who engage in a little bit of Jack Sparrowing. I think that's a common thing that happens sometimes from time to time. I've talked on this podcast about my disdain for Netflix and other streaming services by how hard they make it to access content, to just see lists of what content is there, content coming on and going off. I use Plex at the moment, which is a much better system. But very interesting, and obviously this situation in Ukraine is really, really devastating for everyone, and it sucks, and it's causing so many issues around the world. And I saw this great meme where it was talking about boomers, the boomer generation, and it was like, hey boomers, great call picking the best time in history to be born, because boomers were born just after World War II. And, now that we've just come out of a global pandemic and we're about to go into possibly World War III, which will be devastating. And boomers are in their old age now. So they're just in this peak between World War II and World War III and global pandemic, boomers came in. And yeah, I think this situation is terrible, and it's just interesting to see it develop. As terrible as it is, it's interesting to see what countries are doing and how they're retaliating. But it is definitely a huge, huge issue. It's really scary. And I think as well, because McDonald's closed all their stores in Russia. They closed every store they have in Russia, and there were lines at McDonald's for half a mile, which is, was it half a mile? Which is a kilometer in metric system. I think it's amazing. People in Russia heard that McDonald's was going to close, so they all went to get McDonald's. I think that's a good strategy that they could do here. Say, hey guys, we're going to close all McDonald's for 1 month. Everyone gets McDonald's, and they make the month worth of profit, and then they don't end up closing just to freak people out and get more money. Legalizing piracy, very interesting. I'm really hopeful that all of this can end soon because, COVID's still here, Russia's still here. I realize this is supposed to be a fun podcast, but I guess it's important to talk about these things. Also, as well as being sick, I should just point out I've been feeling a bit depressed over the last few months, and I haven't really been that active in the Discord and anything like that. That's just sort of where I'm at the moment, and a lot of people have reached out, which I really appreciate. I guess it's just good to be transparent about where I'm at the moment. I'm doing okay, but there's just a few variables in my life that aren't quite where I want them to be, and that's the thing about variables. They vary. So I think I'm burnt out. I'm a bit sick, and, mental health is not as good as I want it to be right now, but I'm working on that, as I always do. So, hey guys, after I said that, and I think all this news stuff is contributing, I'm trying to limit my social media time. I think it does just fuck us up so much. I listened to this great podcast. Sorry, I'm just ranting a bit. Listen to this great podcast, Osher Ginsberg's podcast. I might talk more about it next week, but it was with Johan Hari, who wrote a book called Lost Connections, and he has a new book called The Social Distraction, or it's something to do with social media and distraction and attention. The Attention Theft, the Attention Thief, something like that. I'll talk about it next week, but amazing listen. Listen to it as homework for next week because I'll talk heaps about it then. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of thinking about what the point of my life is at the moment. And yeah, guys, thanks for listening. Let's quickly do this. The plug. Catch me on the Overflow podcast. I'll talk a bit more about the stuff I was talking about. And again, appreciate everyone's support. Patreon.com/Radio Mike. It's as little as $1 a month. We're hopefully going to do a pattern mic as well. So sometimes you get one bonus pod a week that's up right now. Go and listen to it and you get the whole back catalog. So you can literally pay $1 and you'll get the whole back catalog of Overflows, and then you can cancel it after a month and you've given $1. Or, as I've said, just give for a year. That's $12 a year, 3 coffees a year for 12 times 4, 12 months, 4 weeks in a month, hypothetically, 12, 24, 30. It's 48 episodes, extra episodes from the Overflow, plus the pattern mics, which come maybe every second week. So $12 a year, that's pretty fair. Jump onto the Patreon. I'd love to see you there. YouTube, Radio Mike, and the Radio Mike podcast clips channel is still going, so would love to see you guys subscribing up there as well. That would be awesome. And no Harry Potter and the Boys this week. I was teeing one up with the guys from 1001 Songs That Make You Want to Die. Those guys are so funny, so I'm really excited to record that, but I've just been so sick. So again, sorry this episode is such a downer. And then aside from that, I think I'm on Hamish and Andy this week because Jack's away. He's had his baby. Congrats, Jack. So I filled in on the panel. There's a few fun things. Again, I might tease them more thoroughly next week because at the moment I just really need a rest. So yeah, guys, listen to Hamish and Andy, and I think that's pretty much it. No Harry Potter and the Boys. That'll be back next week, hopefully. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Sorry I'm having an off week and an off couple weeks, but yeah, also Adventure Park Geelong this Saturday. Please come along if you are in the area. We'd love to see you there. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. My name's been Radio Mike. This podcast has been the inside of my mind. Don't block the MDF. At the moment, I'm too tired to think of all the other ones. I love you guys so much. Thanks for listening. I'll speak to you soon. This podcast was a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to check out all our other content, stay up to date at radio.mike on Instagram, and get in touch, radiomikepod@gmail.com.